Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. And this week, we're going back across the pond. I love leaving the US and having non-US guests on. I love the US guests too, but I like that because the podcast is listened to around the world, that I get to talk to people from outside the US who also listen to the podcast. And this week, my guest is Medina King, and she runs the Etsy shop MK Kids Interiors. Medina, hi, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Ejiyoma. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited.
You're so welcome. I'm excited to talk with you too. And I just want to jump into it because there's so much that I want to talk to you about. And what most people don't know is usually before we start recording, I do some audio sound checks, and sometimes the conversations go on for longer than expected. And Medina and I have been talking for a while, so I told her I'm going to pretend to have amnesia because we talked about everything that I want us to share on the podcast. So thank you so much for taking the time out. And Medina is in London, but before we jump into that, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, so I'm Medina King, the founder of MK Kids Interiors, and that is an interior design company for children. And I decided to start my Etsy shop somewhere in between starting the children's interior design company and now. And I made my first sale just after I had my daughter Eliana, like literally 4 days after giving birth. I made my first sale on Etsy, even though I had the Etsy store open, a year before that. So I'm an interior designer by trade, and a designer, maker, artist.
Yeah.
Everything. I'm just a creative, basically.
Yeah. And one of the questions I asked Medina was, why, when you were giving birth, was your Etsy shop open? Why didn't you put it on vacation or, something just so that you had that time off?
I don't believe that the Etsy store should ever be closed. Like, why? You could actually leave a note and say, I'm not available for now. Or you can even message clients and say, look, I've just popped out for a little while. You can either wait a few days before I ship your item, or if you want a refund, if you want it urgently, then we can do that. So I don't really believe in closing the Etsy store. And also because I had the store a year before that, in 2014, that's when I started the Etsy store. And I started uploading artwork to the shop, but I never ever made a sale. So when I started making the garlands and I decided to upload it, I thought, I might not make any sales. This Etsy thing might not be real. I don't know. So when I made my first sale, I was actually shocked, and happy, excited.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't close it when I went into labor.
Yeah. I like how you said, you can always send them a message and say, I've popped out, or, I'm busy. And I'm thinking, in your case, what would you have said? I just popped out my first baby, or I'm delivering my firstborn child. I'm still amazed, but I understand why you...
I never actually thought of that, but after making that first sale and going, I think I've been on holiday 4 times after that, and I still have never closed it. The one time that I went on holiday, which was I think around Easter time, we went back to Ghana, and there was a product that I had. It was new. I decided to make it. It was new. It was pretty, and somebody wanted it for Easter. And I actually said, oh no, I'm away. I will be back and I can post it as soon as I get back, but I am away. Yeah. you won't be able to get it right now, but you can have it and you can have a refund or you can wait. And she was like, oh no, I don't want to wait. But then the next day, someone else bought it. And I said the same thing to her. And she was like, no problem. I'll wait. Like, it's amazing.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, yeah. So that's the reason why you don't need to close your Etsy shop.
Yeah. And I always worry about that too, because I closed my shop. I had to when I moved, because I was moving states and all my stuff was going to be in transit for a period of time. And you know how they always tell you, oh, your stuff will, it will arrive on, such and such a date. It never does. And I didn't want to mess with that. So that was the first time I shut down the store. Not shut down, but took one of those breaks. Every other time, whenever I travel, what I like to do, like you, I don't like to close the store especially not since that time, because it really affected my shop, the traffic to my store. By the time I was making the move, I was consistently getting sales on a daily basis. And I feel like because I had a whole routine going on, like I drip my listings. So I will have a whole bunch of listings in not active now, I can't think of it, where I've done them and they're ready to go, but I don't release them. And so I'll release them, like every other day. I'll do 5 or 10. And so instead of having to keep renewing on a regular schedule, I was just putting new items on. And so I think that just kept the shop fresh. And so it was getting good traffic because the shop was just consistently fresh. But then when I shut it down, all that stopped, and it took a while to build back up. So now what I do is, even if I'm traveling, the most I'll do is I'll go and I'll change my shipping times. So whereas I usually have it 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 business days for shipping, I'll change it depending on how long I'm gone to 5 to 7 business days or 1 to 2 weeks, so that at least that way people will know. And I'll put the notice, of course, and say, I won't ship till, if you buy between this date and this date, I'll ship it after this date. But shutting down, I don't do that anymore. I don't.
Like, I just thought it was for the privilege.
Yeah, no, it's not. But yes, yeah, I agree. So now we haven't talked about what you sell, Medina. What do you make and sell on Etsy?
So, now I make pom-pom garlands, otherwise known as felt ball garlands.
Depending on where in the world you live.
Yeah. And also, I extended it into storage baskets, so felt storage baskets and felt ball rugs. And so that's what I sell now on Etsy. I have ideas for other things in my mind, and I'm not sure if I'll release them on Etsy, but I do have ideas for other things. But that, for now, that's what I sell on Etsy.
Okay. And how does what you sell on Etsy fit into your interior design business?
Okay. So I actually sell handmade kids' room decor, and it's mostly new mums or mum to bees that buy my products. So they will buy a garland and they'll hang it in their nursery. They usually hang them over under a shelf or over picture frames, over shelves, above the cot. I also sell mobiles. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mobiles. And so, yeah, they just hang those. And, yeah, not only mums, though. There was an interior designer that actually sent me a very beautiful photo last Christmas gone. And she bought a really colorful garland, a neon garland with different colors, and she hung that over her fireplace. And it was so beautiful. If you want to see it, you can actually go to Instagram. It's on Instagram
Okay.
At Felt Goodness.
Is that your Instagram handle or is that hers?
Yeah, that's my
That's
Instagram
yours.
handle.
Okay.
I separated, so I've got two Instagram handles. I've got MK Kids Interiors, and I also have Felt Goodness.
Okay.
I decided to separate it because I wanted to focus. I wanted MK Kids Interiors to be more about kids interiors.
Okay.
So like when customers send me a really nice photo of their nursery or stuff, I'll put that onto MK Kids Interiors, also onto Felt Goodness. But then even if I'm making garlands or in the process of, or just showing behind the scenes of felt, like the felt ball garlands,
Yeah.
that's going to be on Felt Goodness. So that's the reason why I decided to separate it.
And do you run both of these accounts?
Yeah, it's really confusing.
I can only imagine. Yes. Okay.
There are times that I actually like, so if someone leaves a comment on MK Kids Interiors and I go through and I see it, sometimes I respond thinking that I'm actually on MK Kids Interiors, but I'm not. I'm on a different one.
Yeah.
So I actually have my personal, the Felt Goodness, MK Kids Interiors, and I have another Instagram account. So I have 4 Instagram
Oh
accounts.
my goodness. And it wouldn't be so bad if Instagram did something like what Twitter does, where if you have the phone app, you can easily jump from one account to the other. But with Instagram, you have to log all the way out.
Oh
then
no,
log
they
back
changed
in.
it now.
They have?
Yeah, so I'm logged in to 4 accounts, but sometimes one account actually automatically logs out. So if you're on your phone, so at the moment on one phone I'm logged into 4 accounts. You just need to hold down the icon at the bottom right, and then the accounts pop up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you can actually add multiple accounts. It's a recent thing, I think. This year.
Oh, okay. I need to go and play with that because I wanted to have an Instagram account for my Etsy shop and then the podcast separately. And I did set one up, but it was just such a hassle to have to log out and then log back in. And then I'd want to post something about the podcast and I'd post it on the shop one. And then I was just like, oh no, I don't feel like doing this again. You know, so I will have to play with that now that that's fixed. Thank you, Instagram. And thanks, Medina.
Yeah.
So, I have so many questions for you. Before we get into like the regular conversations, one of the things I want to talk to you about is when we first got in touch and started talking about you coming on the podcast. At the time, your Etsy shop wasn't available on Etsy. And I remember I emailed you and I said, oh, I can't find your Etsy shop. What's going on? And there was something going on with your Etsy shop. Do you mind if we talk about that?
No, that's fine. We can talk about that.
Okay. So what happened?
So one day, I think it was the 19th of June. I think so. Yeah.
Sometime about then. Yeah.
And I just noticed that I wasn't. Oh, I had just realized that I've made my 400th sale, and I was actually celebrating. So I posted onto my personal Facebook page saying, "Yeah, I made my 400th sale," and blah blah blah. I didn't know that I'd get so far on Etsy, and I'm really grateful to God. And it was just amazing. It was like, and even Etsy had a little celebration thing in the top right hand corner saying, "Ooh, 400 sales," and blah blah
cool.
blah. Oh yeah, that's nice. Thanks, for reminding me, Etsy. And then, like, I think the same day or the day after, I noticed that I wasn't hearing Etsy. I wasn't getting any likes, and I think I went on to try and communicate with someone who was trying to communicate with me through Etsy through the messages,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't get on with the iPad. But my iPad app is outdated.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, maybe it's the iPad. And then I tried to go on with my phone, and I think I had to log back in. And I was like, what's happening? Like, this has never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so I finally go onto the desktop, and then I realized that, yeah, it says that my shop is just not available. And I'm like, huh? What's happening?
So wait, were you able to log into your account?
At the time, I don't think so.
Huh. Okay.
I still could communicate. I was able to communicate with customers, because I remember messaging them saying that, they've closed my shop. I was baffled. I didn't know what had happened. So I think I tweeted to Etsy, and then they messaged back saying that your shop has been suspended. It's been closed.
They told you this on social media when you...
Yeah, through
Whoa.
direct messaging.
Oh, okay.
Not for everyone to see.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, that
So,
would
yeah.
be cold.
They did message me and tell me that, but I wasn't pleased, because they should at least give you a notification on the back end.
Yeah.
So they said to me, go and check your junk mail. Maybe it's gone. We've messaged you a few times, 2 times, I think, and we've not had a response.
Okay.
So they had sent a message that's gone into my junk mail asking me to complete a form, because I've put on one of my listings, or a few of my listings, that I get help with making products. So the help that I get is through a manufacturer in Nepal. So I order all my felt balls from Nepal. And now, so initially when I started, I ordered from here, but now I order from Nepal.
Okay.
And I decided to, because I had that contact, I was like, I want to start designing baskets, storage baskets. Like, I'm in need of storage baskets myself, and rugs and pretty stuff. So I designed my baskets, drew them up, and sent them over to have them made. So when I was listing them, I had actually put that I got help. So I think they ask on one of the first few questions when you're listing items on Etsy, like, who made the item? Was it you?
Yeah.
Was it some blah, blah, blah? So I answered honestly. But I didn't put the name of the manufacturers, because I know that there are competition people who are like competing with me, who are actually watching my every move. So I decided to just put Nepal. And I think Etsy picked up on that, and they wanted to know more about the manufacturer, more about the processes, and they sent a questionnaire that I never actually got, that just went to the junk mail. And so when I checked, I saw that they sent a message with this questionnaire. And I'm like, but like, when I owe you money, Etsy, you make it known on the back. Send me a message that goes into my junk mail. So I filled it out. Actually, I think I took a while before I filled it out, because I'm like, but I don't understand. Like, I've given you all the information that I've given you. But anyway, they told me to fill it out, so I filled it out, and they took a while before they even responded to the fact that I filled it out. Then someone else messaged me asking me the same questions that was on the questionnaire.
And this is someone from Etsy.
From Etsy. And I was like, but I was really frustrated, because I'm like, you've sent me the questions. I've answered all these questions already. Why are you asking me the same questions? Then someone else picked up the case, and then said that I need to answer the questions in order for them to verify if I make the products myself. So basically, they thought that I don't make the products, I don't design them, I have no input in them, that I just sell them.
Oh, that maybe you were importing them and just selling.
Yeah.
Not really having any part in the design or any artistic transformation after.
Yeah, and I'm like, Etsy, like, anybody can make a garland. But then I realized it wasn't the garlands, it was the fact that I was selling rugs and the baskets. So they asked for pictures, they wanted to see my workspace. And at this time, my workspace is actually my front room or my bedroom. And recently it's been my bedroom. So when I at night after I put Eliana to sleep, and do everything else, and I've got orders to make, I sit on my bed, I put a podcast on, and I start making garlands, doing up all the orders that I have. And I'm I don't really want to, but I was so frustrated that I just took pictures of the boxes, the everything that was in my room.
Yeah. Well, that's realistic.
Realistic, but it's not very nice. I wouldn't want the world to see.
No, I know.
So I sent them all of that. I actually sent them because they wanted to see the drawings and the communications between me and the supplier. So I sent a screenshot of the emails. I sent pictures of the drawings, and it's a good thing that I actually, because sometimes when ideas come to me, it's just they come in my head. I don't necessarily sit down and work out on a piece of paper and start drawing, this idea. It's just ideas that come to me. So they see the process, and I didn't really have a process to show them, but I did have images of the baskets and the rugs I don't think I sent them the rugs, but the baskets that I drew, and also how I annotated what I wanted. So if I wanted grey down there and blue at the top and pom-pom's hair, I had all of that written down, and I sent it to them. Then they said that they want to see, and then they would have a period of silence, no one responding. And so I actually called, there's a number that you can actually call on Etsy to complain. So I called and I complained and spoke to someone, and she was really pleasant, and she got in touch with the person who was on the case, prompt them again, and they responded to me this time a bit more positive, because at one point they said that they're not going to open the store again because the information that I provided wasn't enough, basically, and it didn't show that I made the products. I might be talking a bit more talking more,
right,
saying more of what was written, but they basically didn't believe me. And I'm so what part don't you believe? You've seen the drawings, you've seen the emails. Can you explain to me what it is that you don't believe? And I was really frustrated at this point. And then the person responded to me saying, can you send an image? Can you take a picture of your drawings, of your processes, with a date and the name of, so write on a piece of paper the date and the name of your Etsy shop. I'm really? What? So I had to write on a piece of paper MK Kids Interiors and the date, and then in one hand, so I've put the paper down, in one hand I've got the book where I've got the drawing, and the phone in one hand taking a picture of everything. I think to show that it's actually mine.
Yeah.
So I did that, and they basically said to me, they will allow me they'll open my Etsy store. And I said to them, can you not, if you don't think that I've made the products, can you at least just okay the garlands? Because I've actually made the garlands. You can see all the boar's hair. You can see me. I even took pictures of me making the garland. And obviously I'm taking the pictures myself, so you're not going to see my head, my face. It's just my hands and everything around. And then they basically gave me the go-ahead to sell the garlands, the baskets, but not the rugs. And I said to them I did say to them, there's one rug that I actually don't, that's not my design. And I started selling it because people wanted it. It's a multicolored rug. And that was really popular. It got quite a few likes, but it's not original to me. it's like it's a rug that people like. But I started designing my own rugs. And I did design my own, and I told them that this is mine, but they still hadn't okayed. But the last email that they sent me was for me to send images of the processes of me designing the rug. And I haven't sent that because I've just been so, like, I've been busy personally. I'm actually building a garden office. So
Yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm a laborer. But yeah, my builder and me. So I'm constantly like on this, looking at this office and on site, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait.
So that's
no. Go on.
That's what happened with Etsy, and so now they put me back on, but I took the rug listings off. So if you want to see rugs, you have to go to my website.
Okay. And just if you're listening and you want to hop over and see this rug that didn't cause the issues, but the rugs, go to mkkidsinteriors.com, and it's in the shop section, and I will link to that as well in the notes for this episode. So Medina, how long altogether did this process take? Was it a quick thing? Did this happen over the span of a week, or was it longer?
I think it was a good 3 weeks. So 3 weeks out of the month, because it felt like a whole month. It was 3 weeks, and it was long, and I lost a lot of sales.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was what was the impact of having this shut down? Like, I mean, okay, to contrast with what we talked about in the beginning about you not even shutting down your shop when you went to give birth and had your baby, to actually having your shop shut down. Was there a significant impact, I should say, on your shop, on sales, on SEO, on anything related to just selling on Etsy? And have you recovered from that, if there was?
There was a significant impact. I lost a lot of money because I've realized that my sales, I'd make more sales over the weekend. It might not be significant, or every other day I'd make a sale. And at the time that they closed the shop, I was communicating with customers who wanted to buy again and who wanted to purchase other things, like to have things customized, and all of that communication just went like
Silent,
it stopped.
Wow.
I did actually, I don't know if this is allowed, but I did say to a customer, look, if you want, Etsy has closed my shop. If you want to buy it, I can do it through my website.
I was going to ask, yeah.
Yeah, I did do that. One person actually purchased through my website because she really wanted it, and the others, they're still pending.
Okay.
But yeah, I had to do something because I had no communication from them, and I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
And even like with the stats, like my stats are usually like really good. I'm looking at it now, and it just says visits 1,144. I don't know what period that is, but it went down to 0. It went down to like 2. And I think it was probably just people in Etsy looking, because I'm like, if I can't access my shop and nobody else, like who's actually
looking, right? Wow. So that would have to rock you, because I'm thinking if I was running a business that had been running smoothly, I've hit my stride, and then my shop gets shut down, I'm going to come back and regroup and figure out how to, in the future, not let something like that affect me so much. So did you have a chance to do that? And what do you now do differently, or what do you plan to do differently so that in the event that something like this happens, and, I hope it doesn't, what do you have a contingency plan in place? And I'm asking because I know there are other sellers, and maybe somebody listening now might be going through something similar or might get hit with something similar. And I would just hate for somebody to feel like everything was all for nothing because Etsy decided to make this executive decision and now it's all gone. So how are you planning for the future?
Okay, so when it happened, it forced me to sort my shop out. It forced me to add more garlands, more products to my shop.
Yeah, and to be clear, you mean your shop on mkkidsinteriors.com,
Yeah,
not
so
your Etsy shop. Yes, okay.
Yeah, mkkidsinteriors.com/shop.
Okay.
So yeah, that was what I was working on, but it was painful. It was really, really painful for me, and I didn't know that it would affect me so much. Like, Etsy closing my shop, making me so sad. And then my husband would come home and ask, "Oh, have they opened your shop yet?" And I'm like, "They haven't." No, I don't know. He probably saw the frustration, but I kind of just had to just get on with it and work on my personal website, which is what I did. And I let everyone know on social media that Etsy closed my shop. And even when I was posting on social media, like I'd post a garland or anything, I'd hashtag Etsy seller because I was an Etsy seller.
Yeah.
But then I'd post it to, I'd put the link to my personal website.
Yeah.
So on Twitter, I was doing that. And, I realized that I actually had a lot pointed to Etsy. So my felt goodness was pointed to Etsy. My personal profile was actually pointing to Etsy. And there were links on my website pointing to Etsy. And, on Etsy where you can actually pin a post after you've uploaded an item.
Yeah.
Pin it, Pinterest.
Yeah.
A lot. All of those were like,
of course. Yeah.
Etsy. And I'm like, I've been promoting Etsy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I need to redo this. And my final thing was to get onto Pinterest and try and point everything back to MK Kids Interiors. I've not had a chance to do that yet. And just as I was thinking about doing that, they decided to put my shop back on. So I was like rejoicing.
Okay. Now, when they did reinstate your shop, did they let you know, or did you just go on and you saw that it was reinstated?
Well, the last email said that they will allow me to sell, but I can't list the rugs.
Okay.
Then I realized that it was back on. I think I heard a notification. Yeah, it was the fact that I heard someone like an item.
Okay.
I was like, yeah.
That was music to your ears, huh?
It was, but it was bittersweet. I was like, how could Etsy do this to me? But it really did, it opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I realized that I need to sort out MK Kids Interiors. And also with social media, just point that even on Twitter, I was pointing to Etsy. And I'm like, look, Etsy, I've been giving you money and you just you did that to me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that experience. I'm so glad that you did. I'm not happy that you had to go through it, but I think we've all heard, stories or, just heard situations of where people's shops have been shut down. And but I've never actually had anyone on the podcast who has shared their own personal experience and what they had to go through to get reinstated. I assume there are some people that don't get reinstated, but I'm glad that it worked out well in your favor. And I'm glad that you even had mkkidsinteriors.com to fall back on and kind of got the wake up call to focus on that. I will link to MK Kids Interiors, and I just want to say congratulations. I know that you were also featured on House for your designs, which is huge for anyone who doesn't know what House is. That's HOUZZ. Anybody who's looking to do any type of interior design, House is where a lot of people go to get ideas on just how to do, designs, home, office, wherever. I think primarily home though. And so you being featured there is like just, what's the word? Validation, about, as a testimony to what you're doing and your work. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now, how did you find out that you were featured on House? Did your items just show up there? How did that work?
Oh no, like you have to create a profile.
Okay.
And I created a House profile, and I just started to upload projects that I did. So and one of the apparently a few of my I'm talking Pinterest. A few of my pictures, they have been liked hundreds of times. And I think it's the Colourful London nursery, that pink nursery that I did when I was pregnant, the final few weeks of my pregnancy. And that's done really well on House. And I think based on that, like other people who, other bloggers and writers, they will pick up those images and they'll post it on their story. So for example, if they're writing about kids' rooms and they like my image, they'll take that and put that into their article, and through that more people will see my work.
Okay. Wow, congratulations. And that's another way to promote your shop. And I know, not your shop, but your products. And I know that probably won't apply to everyone because it's more for home decor and interior design. So if you're listening to this and you make products that fit into that category, would you advise someone who does want to get additional exposure for their products to open an account on House as well?
Yes, if they do have interior related products, I do advise that. However, I have listed my garlands, but I don't think anybody has even pinned or liked my garlands. But I think what I need to do is if you can style your images, so create a mini room set or create something that looks like you can have that in a room, show people how to use it, then those images, they work better and they sell better than just showing the product itself.
Okay.
So a lifestyle image, they work better.
Okay.
And just to say that I usually ask my customers to send me images of their garlands, and then I post it onto social media if they allow. Most of them do. Most of the ones that send photos anyway.
Yeah.
And one lady that sent me an image of the garland in her nursery, and she styled it really nicely. It's she basically just hooked it onto a shelf, and then on top of the shelf she has like a book, a mini flag, and the name of her child, and it just looks so cute. And that image, I decided to use it on my on one of my listings. That has actually helped that listing to sell more than what it looked like before with just my styling.
Yeah. And is that on a listing on Etsy?
Yeah, it's on Etsy.
Oh, wow. Very nice. And that sounds similar to the type of thing that we've talked about before on the podcast that brand ambassadors will do, where you send them a product and then they style it on, if it's kids clothing on their kids or However, not necessarily just kids' clothing, but people who will take your product and then just style it and photograph it in a way that you probably would never have thought of doing. And then you can use those to sell the products. And those, I've forgotten what they call them. They're not action shots, but like lifestyle shots tend to sell products so much better than just displaying the item alone without, showing exactly how it would look when an end user has incorporated it into their own lives. Yeah. So let's talk about time management. So you're running an interior design company. You're also selling some of your home decor products on Etsy. And of course, you're a mom. How do you manage your time? What does a typical day look like for you incorporating all that you're responsible for?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's actually crazy. And I don't feel like I've mastered it. And each day varies. But I typically get up at 6 in the morning. I'd like to get up earlier, but I always end up going to bed later because I end up working up until midnight or later. Usually midnight, because any time past that, I become a zombie. And if I don't get sleep, I'm cranky in the mornings. I don't want that. So I get up at 6. I get myself showered and dressed. And then Eliana wakes up around 7. And then I attend to her and get her dressed. And then off to my mum's been helping me with her.
Okay.
So I take her to my mum's and I'll go off to work. So that's if I'm on a project. So if I'm on site, that's usually my day. So I get up in the morning. Sometimes I'll have to cook in the morning before I leave and pack her lunch, take everything with me. Then I'll go off to site and I'll work. Then I'll go back and get her, then get her ready for bed, get myself ready for bed. And then if I have orders to fulfill, then do that before I go to bed, package them up. And then, so the next day I'll have to fit like a post office run in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's if I'm on a project. Sometimes if I'm just, if I'm doing things like sourcing, I'll take Eliana with me.
Okay.
It depends. Well, yeah. When she was younger, I don't think I'll take her with me now.
Now she wants stuff.
Yeah, she wants to do her own thing. She wants to come out.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, it varies. So that's one typical day. If I'm on site, sometimes I'm on site until 5, 6. But I try to leave around 5 so that I can actually get home and get her prepared and to bed on time.
Right.
And then if I'm like cooking in the evenings, then it will usually be after she's gone to bed. Then I'll try and prepare food for the next day. Yeah. And I'll listen to podcasts while I'm doing that or while I'm making garlands. But yeah, there's no typical day, because there's some days where I'm working from home and I'm actually styling, so putting garlands together to take pictures or pictures of other products that I sell. It varies, and it also depends on the sunshine.
Oh yes, and in London, I know the sun is very rare, is it not?
Yes. It's really scarce. It's like sometimes I plan, okay, so tomorrow's going to be photography day, and I'm like, but today is so grey, like, and it shows in the pictures. It actually shows. I can tell if the day was grey or sunny. But now with the garden office, it's going to be quite good because I can set up just outside. Even if like it's not a sunny day, then I still have lots of natural light and it won't be that bad.
Right. And for now, you do everything yourself? You don't outsource anything to anyone? Well, as far as like administrative tasks, you still handle all of that. You still handle all the day-to-day, responding to convos in between making and
Yeah, so all the admin, that's me. However, sometimes, like especially around Christmas time, I get my cousin. She's really, really helpful. My cousin comes and helps me, and she used to enjoy making garlands, but now she hates it.
Thanks, Medina.
Well, yeah, she's really good, and she helps me with making. She loves the photography side. She likes doing videos. I did a video that she did for me while Ellie was sleeping one day. So I tried to talk really quietly, and I'm so embarrassed about the video, but I did post it on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Making a felt ball garland, how to make a felt ball garland. So she recorded it for me and she edited it. She loves that. I also got help. So I got a friend of mine to come and help me make garlands. So what I tried to do is make up a batch of them so that when I am busy and when the orders do come in, all I need to do is just package it, put the postage address on, and then send it out instead of, oh, I've got to make a garland now.
Yeah.
Package it, because that takes a lot longer. So I've had help in that sense. I also took on an assistant just before they closed the Etsy shop, actually. I took that. So that was the 19th of June that they closed the Etsy shop. I had an assistant from, I think, May, throughout May. And then I stopped having an assistant. Just because I'm building the office at the moment.
You have to prioritize where you want to spend your money.
So I just want to get that out of the way, and once the office is up, then I can have an assistant again. And especially as Christmas is coming. Christmas is usually like a really busy period. November, December.
Okay. Now, do you ship primarily, are most of your customers in the UK or in Europe, or are you spread out all over the world?
I would say all over the world.
Okay.
And I do get, I don't know, seasons. Like I think around Christmas time, it's weird. Around Christmas time, I have a lot of American customers, which is, it's weird, but it's nice. I love it. And I've had customers from Australia. I've had China, and I've also had a query from Lebanon. Oh, I've actually sold to Lebanon, and I had a query from there as well. But most of my customers are, I don't know, it's like between the UK and the US.
Okay.
So I do sell a fair amount to the US.
Okay. I'm working on a resource episode for the podcast, going through the new shop manager, and in one section, I can't remember what the section is. It's somewhere in the stats. You can look at a world map and see where, for whatever date range you put in, people have come from who have looked at listings in your shop. And I like that section because for me, I just find it so amazing to think, like I was looking at it the other day as I was preparing the episode, and I thought, whoa, somebody in Bosnia was looking at something in my shop. Like,
oh, where is that? I want to see.
Oh, in the shop manager, I'll tell you when we finish this. But yes, it's fascinating because it's like, whoa, somebody in Papua New Guinea was looking at my shop. It just, I find it so intriguing. It's I go there and I get lost sometimes. Like, wow, I wish I knew who they were. But yeah, it's one of the newer. Well, it's not new. They had it before in their stats, but now it's easier to navigate to that, and it gives you a bit more information about where your traffic is coming from. And the good thing about that is, especially for people who have closed, who don't sell internationally or have selected just specific regions in the world to sell to, I like it because it shows you who's looking at your products that might not be in the regions that you've chosen to sell to, that might be your customers, but because you're not selling to that particular region or country, you might be missing some income. And so it's nice to look at that and think, oh, and say, you know, maybe I should change this business decision I've made to restrict my sales to just this, you know, particular geographical region. That's just my thought.
I didn't think that you can choose that. I didn't realize that you can choose
where you want to sell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know that you can do it on Amazon, but I didn't know that you could do it on Etsy.
Yeah. There's so much stuff on Etsy, and that's part of why I'm doing that episode, just because I think there's some things that I didn't even know were there. Just as I'm going through the dashboard, I'm like, oh, I didn't know we could do that, you know. But yeah, you can do some nifty things on Etsy, which I think a lot of people aren't aware of. So let's talk about social media. Now, I know we talked about Instagram already. Do you use, and Facebook and Twitter, actually, we've touched them, almost all of them.
Yes.
But of all of them, which one do you think gives you the best return on the time you invest in it? And do you think it's worth it to stay on the other platforms that don't?
I don't know. It's tricky because it's so tricky. I think Pinterest is really good because when you post things, it's just there for life, and people will see it, and especially based on what they follow, and also because Pinterest, they suggest things to you, your pin can actually pop up in someone who might be interested in the garland. Yeah. So I believe I get sales through Pinterest because I see that people pin the garlands. So that's definitely it's worth pinning once you've created a listing. Instagram is good. I know that it's worked a lot for some people in making sales. I've tried it. There's once that I actually listed something online, and as soon as I listed it, I put a post on Instagram saying, oh, this item's now mine. And then someone messaged me. I heard a ka-ching straight away. The lady messaged under the Instagram post saying, oh, bought, with a smiley face. And I was like, it's you. I was like, thank you so much. This actually works. And so my plan was to continue doing that on Instagram, but I just can't keep up with all the social media.
Oh, I know.
Facebook is good because I'm on different groups on Facebook. So like if I have new things, or, you know, I know that mums are always interested in like beautifying their child's room. Yeah. And do it cheaply. So I'll say, look, I've got these garlands and blah, blah, blah. So I've made sales through Facebook like that. Okay. And I just think, and I noticed that when I post on Facebook, I get more likes, and I know that I get more sales. So I tend to just post around Thursday, Friday on Facebook. Okay.
Have you found those to be the more active days?
The weekend, basically, it's active because I think people buy more on the weekend because they're home, as opposed to like in the week, during the week. So yeah, the shop is busier on the weekends. Okay,
and that makes good sense. And I have the same struggle because, like I was mentioning to you earlier, you know, having an Instagram account for the podcast, you know, is great. But then, you know, I try not to showcase too much of what I'm selling in my Etsy shop, but then to run a second account where, you know, I would, like, if I'm packing something or shipping something, you know, I would like to take a picture and say, oh, someone's going to be making, this fun craft because they just bought these supplies. And, I wish I could say, send me pictures and I'll post them. But then I don't want to do that on the podcast, Instagram account. And so I really need to go and play with switching from Instagram accounts, because that might be a lifesaver there. Now, on your website, you have a blog feature. Have you found that blogging on your, and this is the mkkidsinteriors.com site, have you found that blogging on there helps to drive more traffic to the site? And are you able to blog there on a regular basis?
Blogging, I think it has.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said before, like there was so much pointing towards like my Etsy shop. I didn't even like know what definitely has worked.
Okay.
There is a blog post that I did on how customers have used the garlands, the pom-pom garlands. And I'm not sure. I'm not really good at tracking the website these days.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how it's affected sales, but I'm sure it does if I was posting it. So for example, if I blog, I will actually put it onto my Facebook page and then share it to the groups that I'm on. And I know that definitely helps.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't get to blog as often as I would like to. My assistant was actually helping with the blogging side of things.
Oh, okay.
And well, blogging with the other website. So there's another business that I do, which is interior design and property maintenance.
Okay.
And she was helping with that side of things. But yeah, I don't blog as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
But it would definitely help.
Right. And I have the same complaint. I'm like, I wish I had more time to just sit down and write. And I'll be driving and I'll have a wonderful idea for a post. I'm like, okay, don't forget. And as soon as I walk into the house and life takes over, I was like, I know I had a really good blog post in my head. Now nobody will ever read it.
Exactly. That happens. Like when I'm in the shower, I get the best ideas. And when I'm cooking, when I'm cooking and listening to podcasts, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
And you just forget.
Yep. Yes. It's very frustrating. So I usually like to ask people what's a lesson about selling on Etsy that they learned the hard way. In your case, I think we talked already about just being shut down and just how that changed your whole outlook on running your own business. What I would like to ask you is, what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out and is kind of fully reliant on Etsy right now? Not to say that having your shop shut down is something that routinely happens. Actually, I don't know what the stats are on that. I know it happens. I just don't know how often. But what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out on Etsy or just starting out with their own creative business?
Okay, if you're starting on Etsy, like I've actually always told people, oh, try Etsy. If they're doing something creative, I'd say try Etsy, and I say listen to this podcast, Etsy Conversations podcast. Oh. It's so good. Honestly, I was listening to you from 2014, listening to all the people coming on and just giving tips on how to create listings. And I was like, oh, wow, this is good. I'll try this. And I actually tried the tips and it worked. So I'll definitely say listen to this podcast and also set up an Instagram account and Pinterest. So if you have nothing else, Instagram, Pinterest. Instagram is good. They're both visual, so people can actually see. And the fact that Pinterest links to your Etsy shop, that's like bonus. Yeah. That's a plus. And then Instagram is good because you can put like different hashtags, and like if people are searching for or looking at a particular hashtag, your thing would come up. And if it's something that they're interested in, they'll buy. And also with Instagram, give them as much information as you can on the post, so that they can know that they can buy it, and give them a call to action. Say, okay, you can buy this at link in the profile, or if you're interested, DM or leave a message. I've seen people do that. It's not exactly worked for me like that, but definitely have those two visual platforms that people can see what you do, and just post. You have to take like really good pictures. So if you're using your phone, just make sure that you're in plenty daylight, like it's just beautifully bright, so that you can get have the best lighting. And yeah, I've used my phone for a few, but I tend to use my camera now and put it into Photoshop and just brighten it up a bit, because as I said, it's always grey in London.
Yeah, and your photography is great. What kind of camera do you use?
Thank you. It's Nikon.
Okay.
Do you know, I can't even remember now. I was about to say Canon, but no, I believe it's a Nikon.
Okay. And is it a point and shoot, or it's a DSLR, or a non-mirror lens? I think is what the other one is.
DSLR. Okay. I'm not great with all of this. I actually bought it because I wanted to start vlogging, and it just didn't really work out. Like, I've got like 2 or 3 videos.
Oh, now I'm going to hunt them down.
They're embarrassing. But yeah, so that's why I bought it. And then when I started doing the garlands, I realized, I can use the camera to take pictures and put them in Photoshop and just brighten them a little. And what else do I do in Photoshop? Pretty much just brighten and change the size, just reduce the size.
Yeah.
And rename them. So I renamed them.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because naming your pictures is huge, which is something a lot of people forget to do. Like, you'll just keep whatever string of characters that the camera or the program assigns, but naming your pictures helps with search engine optimization. It
really does.
Really does.
I actually heard that on another podcast. The ladies that recommended this podcast, Bethan,
Brilliant Business Moms.
Yeah. That's what I started to listen to when I was nursing. And I was just like, that actually saved my life. But yeah, she mentioned that it's good to to name your pictures. Don't just leave it as image 00 what have you, but name so that it picks up in SEO. So I've been working on SEO a lot, trying to do those basic things to help with my listings. And so now, like, I think I've even listed them slightly wrong, because there's a difference between underscore and like a dash.
Oh, and there is.
Yeah, I think another person that I listened to was saying that no, it's not good to put the I can't remember which one it is now, the dash, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to change everything, but I haven't. So, but just name your images.
Okay. Yeah, anything is better than, like you said, image 001.
Yeah. Because what is that?
Yes. Yes. Oh, good deal. Okay, now I have to go and find out which it is, hyphen or underscore. And I seem to remember hearing something like that, but I wasn't paying attention and I don't know which one it is. But yes, now that you mention it, I vaguely remember hearing someone say once, use this, not the other. And well, sorry, it doesn't help anyone because neither of us can remember which one it is. But I'll look it up, and if I remember, I'll put it in the notes for this episode. So if you're listening to this, check the show notes for this episode at convome.com, and hopefully I should have an answer for you. Now, Medina, what aspect about selling on Etsy do you really like about the platform? And then are there any features that currently don't exist that you would like to possibly see on the platform one day?
Oh wow. I love the ka-ching.
Oh, I love that too. Yes.
I love that sound. I love the fact that it's quite easy to list items. They've made it slightly complicated now because there's like a bit more that you have to add to your listings, but it's good because it just makes it a lot easier to for people when they're searching for something, and if they want a particular thing, they can select the items that they want easily. I love the fact that you can see your stats, you can see how many likes you get, so how many people are looking at the items. I also love the fact that they have it shows you the keyword that people actually search for. So in my case, pom-pom garlands ranks higher than felt ball garlands. So then I need to make sure that pom-pom garlands are always in my listing, my title. So I love that. I love the fact that Etsy actually pays. They pay you, I think, every 2 weeks. I think.
Yeah. Well, actually, and I just learned this also from doing that episode of the new shop manager. I want to call it seller dashboard, but the new Etsy shop manager. You can actually pick how often you want them to deposit your money. So you can do once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month, or if for some reason you want the money put into your account that day or sooner or like immediately, you can actually select that. Yeah. I know. I'm so excited to release this episode because there's so many things there. I'm like, I wonder if people know this even exists, because I'm like, I didn't know this, but then I don't know so much. So that's not really saying too much.
I like how, when customers, they request a custom order or custom list, they want to customize something. And on the, I love the fact that you can actually just switch the conversation from a conversation to a custom order.
Oh, I did not know that.
But you can only do that on the desktop. That's what I noticed. And I wish you could actually do it on the app. You can't actually convert it to a custom order request and create a listing from your app. You have to do it on the desktop. So that's one thing that I wish.
Wait, so let me understand it. So if you're having, if a customer puts in a custom order.
So if you're having a conversation with a customer about they want to customize something or they want to do something, there's going to be one minute, let me just try and look at something that so on the right hand side of the conversation on the desktop, it says make this a custom order.
Oh, okay.
And if you click that, then you can quickly create a listing for that customer based on the conversation.
So
and that's really, really good.
Yeah. But so does the listing then just contain the text of your conversation exchange?
Oh no, it doesn't. But you can fill that in.
Oh.
And you don't really need to do much, but you can copy and paste.
Oh, okay. So that only exists on the desktop.
Yeah, it doesn't exist in the app.
Oh, okay. And that's what you would like to see.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. Okay. Well, and I sometimes forget to say this. I don't know that Etsy listens, but if they do, that would be a good one to implement. Now, before we wrap up, are there any resources or tools that you use to help run your business, and not just on Etsy, but your interior design business, just running a business in general, that you find particularly helpful and you wouldn't mind sharing?
Oh my gosh. I feel so bad because I don't have any. There's, there's things that I've been like thinking about and listening to.
Hmm.
Um, so there is what's it called? There's there's two things that I want to get. I want to get an invoicing system up
Okay.
so that I don't actually have to write up do up each invoice
Okay.
on Excel or Word or even InDesign because that's what I was doing before.
Mhm.
So I can't remember the app. I can't remember what it's
For invoicing?
for invoicing.
And is this something that exists outside of the Etsy ecosystem?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
general, so people use it for their businesses. Um,
Okay.
QuickBooks, that's it.
QuickBooks, yeah. Okay.
I'd like to start using QuickBooks,
Okay.
and there's also a design platform that I listen to different design podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one that I'd like to implement where you can actually manage the whole project on that program. But I'm not there yet. Like
Okay.
it's an idea, but QuickBooks is closer. It's something that I'm closer to doing.
Okay. Yeah. And I've heard nothing but good reports about using QuickBooks.
Okay.
Well, depending on the version that you use. And interestingly enough, in episode 185 of the podcast, I had Sarah Kornack, who used to be one of the Brilliant Business Moms. She and Bethana are sisters, and she's an accountant, and she went through the different accounting systems that Etsy sellers can use and just really did a deep dive of each of them because she sells on Etsy as well. So she tried each of them. And so in that episode, she talks about the pros and the cons of each one's and suggests or makes recommendations about what would work better for different people based on your own, your business and what you're doing, because some things have features that some people need and some don't, and vice versa. So it was a really good episode. She really took her time going through each one. And so for anyone who hasn't yet made a decision about which accounting system to use, that would be a really good episode to listen to. And she does talk about QuickBooks, by the way, Medina. So she goes into depth about that, and not just QuickBooks for Etsy. She also talks about the freestanding QuickBooks version that is good for online sellers as well, who do more than just sell on Etsy, because the one for Etsy has some limitations. So that's a good one. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember what I was going to ask you, and I was going to wrap this up, but then now I'm opening back another thing. But with Photoshop, did you study how to use it to learn how to use it to edit your pictures, or did you just figure things out along the way?
I was taught just because like in school, when I was in college doing art, I think it was, they took us to a room with computers and just showed us how to use Photoshop, the basics.
Okay.
And also when I started uni, I did a short course on, they called it DTP at the time, desktop publishing,
Okay.
which is Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator. And again, it showed us the basics. But a lot of people have just picked up and learned themselves how to use Photoshop.
Yeah.
And also with YouTube, like you can teach yourself like almost anything.
Oh yeah, YouTube University, I like to call it. Okay. Oh, that's good. Medina, what's the best way people can reach you if they want to get in touch? Oh, but before you share that, the other thing I thought I wanted to share, which I think most people probably don't know, is you mentioned much earlier in the conversation that you were able to call someone at Etsy. Now, is that a phone number that you were given because of what was going on, or is that a phone number that's publicly available to anyone who wants to get in touch with them?
That's a number that's publicly available for anyone who wants to get in touch, but you just have to look very hard. I'm trying to find it now. There's actually a contact us, and I don't know.
Because I feel like I've looked for their phone number before and gave up. So if you can't find it now, I will look for this number. I'm just glad to know it's publicly available, because at first I was thinking, oh, well, they might have just given it to you because of what was going on. But if it's publicly available, then...
It's hard to find. But
I'm sure it's hard to find because I've never seen it. And I know if people had access to that would be very... Well, I'm sure their phone would blow up. So I will take it upon myself to look for this phone number. And if I find it, I will put it in the notes for this episode. But it's good to know that that's one option for reaching them. But now back to you, Medina. If someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way they can reach you?
You can reach me by emailing me info@mkkidsinteriors.com, and on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, it's mkkidsinteriors.com. Or if you want to see the garlands and all things felt goodness, it's @feltgoodness on Instagram.
Okay.
On Pinterest, it's MK Interiors.
Okay. And I will have links to all these accounts everywhere that you can find Medina online, including her Etsy shop, her website, and then all her social media accounts. Medina, thank you so much for being my guest on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your experience. I really appreciate you just being open about what happened. And I think, I hope it will help someone. I'm pretty sure it will help someone along the way. So thank you for just being so generous with your time and information.
I hope it does help someone. And thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure speaking to you. And I hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you. Same here. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.